Good afternoon. I'm Todd Murphy, President of the Jefferson Chamber. Welcome to Vision and Voice. This is our third session with our Parish President, Cynthia Lee Shank. And today we also have Councilman at Large, Scott Walker. Thank you guys for joining us during this unprecedented time. And it is, some people say, well, it's unprecedented and it's challenging, but maybe we shouldn't call it unprecedented. But I think we have to call it what it is. And we're certainly dealing with all of the challenges from the healthcare perspective, the business perspective, our school perspectives, and so many things that go on. So I thought we'd start today with our parish president, as we always do, just to get an update of pretty much where are we today, where are we with our numbers and our stats, what are the pressing needs. Here we are the Tuesday after Easter. Again, we've had a lot of beautiful weather, and I guess if that's the good news, the bad news, right? Because it's kept people able to exercise, but also kind of that need to want to go out and congregate. So anyway, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Todd. We'll start with the numbers. The numbers came out, 5,188 cases today in Jefferson Parish, additional cases with 210 deaths. It was a particularly hard day for us, knowing that the Louisiana, today was a day that we all got our daily, unfortunately our death rate went up significantly across the board. We were on a conference call with Dr. Jerry Satanovich, who's our coroner, and he did explain, don't read so much into that. Don't think you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. There is a lag in the time of those reports. So, but it's hard, but we do know the social distancing is working. And we know that if we didn't do the social distancing, the positive rates and the death rate would only be worse. So I think it's time, that, as we talked about last week, the concern we had in government and in the medical community is that, Easter weekend, everybody was going to go out and start getting outside their family units and socializing more, and we just want to reiterate that if we're going to see favorable trends, which we are, the hospitalization rate is sort of steadying, that it requires us to continue to social distance and just to continue to stay at home and go out really only for your essential needs once a week. That's what we're asking people, go do that shopping for once a week, and just stay at home. So.
And our death rate in Jefferson Parish is at 180?
Well, today we had 210. 210.
Okay.
And it was a bigger jump from yesterday. So we were up 24 from yesterday, which was kind of shocking for all of us. But again, as I said, Dr. Satanovich said, there's a delay in the numbers, so not to read so much into that, like when they come out. And we do know that there is a lag from the first time you show symptoms to about 11 days later. Is if you're going to die, you're going to die at that point. So there's a time lag, not only in the process itself, but also the reporting.
Right.
But we look at the hospitalization rates as a sign that we're starting to see some flattening, and that is very, very positive for us.
That is positive.
Yes.
I get a lot of calls. Obviously, we represent business in Jefferson Parish, and so we get a lot of calls from people that are saying, Todd, is this really necessary? I've got to get back to work. What if we just, stay away from each other? And I think Sheriff LaPinto was the one that really put it into the most perspective for me. He said in 2019 we had 60 automobile fatalities, and you're telling me as of today we have 210
right.
deaths in the last 3.5 weeks, and so it is serious. It's great positive news, but that really puts it in perspective, I think, just for what our community is facing.
Yes, and it's emotionally very challenging for people because they can't see their loved ones. The medical community is sort of closing that gap in providing the emotional support and having to use video conferencing and FaceTime to share between the patient and the family. So that's incredibly distressing on our front line. So many challenges that we're still in the midst of. But again, I thoroughly believe we're going to come out this stronger as a community, but we're still in the midst of it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned our healthcare workers. I mean, what a job they're doing.
Absolutely.
I know everybody's seen the social media posts, but we can't say thanks enough to all the people in the front line, and not just in the hospitals, in the nursing homes and the ERs, the urgent cares, your regular family doctors. Everyone is stressed over this.
Everyone is stressed. Yes.
Well, let's switch gears to Scott Walker, our councilman at large. Scott, you sit here today as not only a councilman at large, but also as a small business owner in Jefferson Parish. And so maybe you could tell us a little bit about your experience what you're facing as someone who's got people that depend on you to make payroll.
Well, the payroll right as this was happening was tight, and had to come out of my own pocket a little bit to make the payroll. And since then, our 7-day-a-week business, Donut Shop, is now a 3-day-a-week or maybe 2-day-a-week business. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or Saturday and Sunday. It's really hardly worth being open on the weekends right now because people in the morning, from what we've seen, generally aren't coming out in the morning in Old Metairie. It's not like they're passing us up because Metairie Road is dead. Nobody's out there. And I think my family, we sleep on the weekends a little bit more than we used to maybe because there's nowhere to go. You don't have any obligations. There are no games to get to. There are no birthday parties. There's nothing to go see. So looking at what we're doing, we're basically staying open 2 days a week to keep 4 people employed. We went from 18 employees part-time to full-time down to 4 or 3, depending on what we use over a weekend. And that's it. And we pay them from the day-to-day work, and there's really not anything left over. And that's the situation we're in. And I don't know what it'll look like on the other end of this, but that's what so many businesses are dealing with right now. The other breakfast places on Metairie Road and in Jefferson Parish, I mean, East Bank, West Bank, doesn't matter where you are. I think anybody who had morning business before, it's hurting because people aren't as out as much in the morning. There's no school. There's no reason to go out in the morning. People aren't going to work. People aren't doing what they used to do. The people I've seen who are serving lunch and serving dinner are doing a much better business than people who have a breakfast business. But it's still way off. If my business is 75% off, then their business is 50 or 60% off still. But they're at least able to survive and able to do some things differently to still make money than we're able to do in the breakfast world.
Right. It's not like you can pivot too much into donuts, right?
I mean, once it gets, in a normal world, once 11 o'clock hits, our day is pretty much over, even though we were open until 5 o'clock.
Right.
3 o'clock, 11 o'clock is about it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just say, okay, we'll serve donuts at 3 in the afternoon and people will come.
Right.
People don't want donuts in the afternoon generally.
Well, if it'll help, I'll have some donuts delivered to the Yenny building tomorrow.
Please do.
Well, and a lot of people pick up dinner on their way home from work,
Yeah.
and you're not able to get into that, route, that traffic pattern.
Right.
When you're,
And we're limited what we can do because we have fewer employees, so it's a reduced menu and it's very simplified. So it's not, even when we're open, we're not doing what we did before from a menu.
And I think that's pretty typical of most businesses, right? I mean, most places that you go to, it's limited menus or limited number of employees, which limits the hours. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a full-service grocery store or a small restaurant.
Right, we're open, on those 2 days we're open 6 to 10.
Yeah.
Normally it's 5 to 3, or
Right.
5 to 5 during the week.
Yeah.
And that's tough to fit it all into 4 hours and try and make money.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting from the perspective that you're serving in government, and yet you're feeling pain, so to speak, from the business owner as well.
Getting on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides. Right. So let's talk about the council
Welcome
side.
to government.
Are you hearing some positive things, I guess, on the councilmatic side? What kind of feedback are you getting? And kudos to you guys for having the first virtual meeting, council meeting last week, I think, of anyone in the region.
It went really well. There were a few hiccups, as can be expected, but
Right.
I think it went really well, considering what went into it and the amount of technology that was used. I mean, everybody was in a different location,
Right.
which was amazing, and it basically went off without a hitch. So we were happy about it.
Yeah.
And I think the response from our constituents, at least where I sit, has been a positive one, because I always tell people that, and this was the same way that I thought about it when I was in TV. You deal with the day-to-day to get to the times like this when you really perform a public service, because on the TV side you're a public servant in essence, because people turn to you in times of crisis when they need information, and it's the same thing here. We're public servants on this side, on the council side, and people turn to you for information. When something like this happens, all they want is information. Everybody wants information. They have to know what's happening. They want to know about the death rate, the recovery rate, who's open, who's closed, whatever information is out there they want. So I think you deal with the day-to-day,
Right.
even on the council side, to get to, not to diminish what we do in the day-to-day, but to really get to the part where the reason that people put you here is to shine and come through for them when there's a crisis.
Right.
And that's where we are now. So I told my staff on March 16th, 3 days after, I guess that was the first day of schools being closed, but I said our jobs have changed. Now we are information pushers.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's
right.
We're responding to constituent emails and listening to complaints and still dealing with issues of blight in places and garbage not being picked up from time to time. People are still emailing about that, but at the same time, we're responding to a whole different realm of things. What businesses are open?
Right.
Where can they get this? Where can they get that? And we're just putting information out. I mean, that's all day, every day. We put out as much information as we can on social media and through video and whatever other medium we can come up with.
That's great. I think we're all trying to do that, and I think that's what really makes the partnership so great between the business and the elected officials, is just trying to keep that information out there, because there's a lot of really good information, and there's a lot of information that's, let's just say, not factual.
It's hard to focus
yeah.
everybody on facts.
Get to the facts, right, and you guys have done a great job at that at jeffparish.net and your own social media sites. We certainly have a lot of those programs, a lot of the loan programs for small businesses in particular, all on our website at jeffersonchamber.org. The SBA has had some hiccups, so to speak, but I think this is such a huge issue. I mean, they've dealt with storms before in certain regions or certain areas, but now they're dealing with this across the entire country. But our banks here locally are getting that money out and giving some relief, and I think we're starting to see some funds come in, so that'll be a good thing as well.
And what I think about in a situation like this, before all this happened, people would talk about technology and my kids have too much screen time and technology gets in the way of society, gets in the way of life. But looking at it now, thank God for technology, because while all that was true before, we're able to do so much now from an information standpoint. I mean, think about if we didn't have the online ability to apply for all these loans. Everybody had to put things in the mail and wait for that to happen that way. And you can just do so much instantly. So thank goodness for technology in a crisis situation.
Absolutely, and it's a combination.
What would we do without Zoom?
With Zoom, right? Yeah, it's a combination, I think, of, in particular for our region, of technology and lessons learned. We've been through so many of these disasters, from Katrina and Gustav and the BP oil spill, and there's just so many things where we've had to regroup and change the way we get through that situation. If you recall, during Katrina, SBA loans were not handled by the banks. They were handled by SBA agents that were trained, in my opinion, through the drive-through and put into a strip shopping center on Airline Drive, and that's where you went and you stood in this line to try to get your loan. And so this time around, our delegation led the charge in DC to say, hey, let the banks handle the SBA loans this time around. The bankers know their customers, they have the financials, they know how to do this, they have the system. You're not going to have some agent trained overnight on how to be a loan officer, and therefore, theoretically, we ought to be able to get the money out faster. And so now there are no more agent offices, so to speak. It's done online and it's done through banks. And so it's a combination of the technology and the lessons learned, I think, that have gotten us to where we are. It's a shame we have to keep learning, but as I say all the time, the doctors and lawyers have it down pat. They call it practicing, and so that's, I guess that's what life is. But anything else you want to add from the Council-matic side? Or
one thing I'd like to talk about is what we are doing through my office with face shields for doctors, nurses, grocery store cashiers, whoever may need them. And I think doctors and nurses will typically wear the mask. It's the plastic face shield with the band that goes around, and they'll wear a mask underneath it. Well, there's a shortage of these shields, so Pelican Events in town, Dolph Federico runs that, and Media Blink, a partner of his, have pivoted their business to produce these face shields. They have 100,000 of them that they can make. And he had the shield, but didn't have a way of getting it out there. So I joined forces with him, and we put it out there. And long story short, 4,000 have been donated since last week. And what we've done is people can buy a box of 25 for $150, and we'll deliver it wherever they want. So they just say where they want it to go, and it goes to whoever needs it.
Wow.
And you
That's
can email shieldrjpheroes@gmail.com
Okay.
to get the ball
And
rolling.
if I could add in, there's levels of PPE, obviously, and so for the stay-at-home folks, the most appropriate mask is the homemade mask that people are making, because,
Right.
you want to keep the face shields to the people who are having to maybe come across positive patients, and then those of us who are staying at home or just going to the grocery store want to wear the homemade mask. So we're going to put out, all of our seamstresses and then the army of people who are sewing these cute little masks.
Yeah.
If you're willing to donate those to drop it off at our East Bank library book drop and our West Bank Regional Library book drop. So we just received a beautiful bag of masks that someone sent. We just took a picture with, but I know they're making them and they're looking for people, so we're taking the donations for those kind of masks.
That's
as well.
great. Well, we'll be sure and get both of all of that information out on our social media page and through our emails. I mean, together this how this works.
Yes.
And I know I think the Shield idea is great as well.
And I won't leave out other council offices too. Dominic
Yeah.
Impastato is helping serve meals, and Dino Bonanno has been doing the same thing with Second Harvest to get meals in people's hands who need them. So everybody's jumped in and kind of just changed what they do to do it in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned Dino. I was trying to reach Dino the other day, and I said, well, I guess you can respond when you get out of the woods. 'Cause I just assumed he was hunting, right? And he was out feeding people with Second Harvest. So
No, our council's been on the front line of this whole, really, as I say, with the feeding, with Councilman Walker with the mask, but all of them are really on the front line of this work that we have to do.
absolutely,
Yes.
no, it's a heavy lift, and there's a lot of people out there that need help. And I mentioned our schools earlier, and that's an area too where our superintendent Kate Brumley just continues to try to provide resources not only for learning but for food.
For food distribution.
To get that out to these kids.
Yes, he's been wonderful with the food distribution.
Well, great. Cynthia, anything else on your end? Is there any other need that we have that we need to address that people can help? I know you always say donate to Second Harvesters because that's very important.
We want you to consider donating to Second Harvesters. The Blood Center is also needing people who have already been through coronavirus and who are recovered from coronavirus to donate their plasma. Okay, so that is, my understanding is, they're looking at these new methods of maybe using people with antibodies that have already gone through the coronavirus to maybe be able to treat new patients. I don't know if they're testing it, but they did put out a call. So anybody who's already, healed from the virus and recovery mode and completely well again, you have those antibodies in your plasma, and the Blood Center is looking for those donations. And we will look for a blood drive too that we're going to get behind because the hospitals need blood. There are very safe methods for them collecting the blood. So we ask that people consider a blood drive or consider a donation to Second Harvest Food Bank and be part of the cause. I know everybody has to stay at home, but they want to feel like they're helping. So
Sure.
Those are the two ways that really people can help.
There's a lot of ways for people to help. And, and just as a lot of our Jefferson Chamber events were postponed, your church events and school events were postponed, blood drives have been postponed.
Yes.
And at a time where we really need blood, so that's important.
One more quick thing.
Yes, sir.
When a state of emergency is declared in the parish president and the administration takes on a huge load.
Yes.
It's bigger than normal. So while we're here, I want to point out the great job that
Absolutely.
the parish president has done and your administration, keeping us in the loop on the council side every step of the way. We're on conference calls every day, and if anybody has any doubt, the parish is in good hands, and we're moving in the right direction after this. It's tough, it's unprecedented, like you said. We call it unprecedented because
it is.
That's what it is.
This is a community. I've never seen an issue like this where the community is just all pushing in the same direction across industries. So we're all in it for the right reason.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Well, and I can tell you where I sit as a chamber president, and there's 9 different chambers around the 10 parish region. I've received several calls from other areas saying, "You guys are doing this right and that right. How are you doing this? How are y'all all working so well together?" And I really can't explain that except it's just the right people in the right places at the right time.
And we're talking a lot.
And we
I think we're
communicate.
talking, we're communicating a lot.
We communicate a lot.
Just don't tell us the parts that said we screwed up.
Right? Yeah, right. And if you think about it, I mean, you guys just got elected and you're in office for 9 weeks, and then all of a sudden all this breaks out. And so I'll applaud both sides of the aisle, both the administration and the councilmatic side, because it takes everybody moving in that same direction and communicating out to the citizens and to the business communities to what we can do to help and what's really happening. So our next council meeting is coming up, is that correct? We have
April
announcement?
22nd.
The 22nd.
April 22nd.
Another virtual meeting.
Another virtual.
Yeah.
Okay, so if someone wants to tune into that virtual, where do they go?
It's on JPTV, it's on the Facebook page, it's on the YouTube page too, I think, and then after the meeting, it's all posted everywhere too. So if you missed the meeting, you can see it after. There's a phone line to call in for public comment, so you can be a part of it just like if you're sitting in the council chamber.
Everything is covered.
Everything is covered.
Okay. And again, it's Wednesday, April
22nd.
22nd. Great. Okay, good. Otherwise, I appreciate both of you being here. All the information information that we mentioned today is either at jeffparish.net or at jeffersonchamber.org. And we invite your comments on social media, which I know I don't have to say that because we get them anyway. But thank you very much, and thank you guys for putting
Thank you.
Jefferson Parish first.
Thank you for what you do, Tom.